Elias Finch slammed his palm against the sensor console. The readings were wrong. They had to be wrong. Red light washed across the observation deck. A deep vibration crawled through his teeth. It settled at the base of his skull. The source was the ship's dark energy tap. The device hummed as it harvested power from the vacuum. Now the tap registered a mass signature. The anomaly appeared on the main display. It hung in the void ahead of them. That signature defied every gravitational model in the ship's database. This was not a planet. It was not a star. This is not a gravity well. Varric spoke. She gripped the edge of the secondary display. Sweat ran down her temple. Then what is it? Elias asked. Varric shook her head. A structure, a very old one. Ilara's voice cut through the alarm tones. The junior navigator was barely 22. Her hands moved across her station with steady precision. Crystalline materials. Organized layout. I am reading an artificial gravity core. Something this size should not exist. Elias stared at the main display. The distortion hung in the void. It was a sphere, perfect, silent, waiting. Bring us closer. Varric shot him a look. That is a single data point from a 22-year-old navigator. She has never seen. Bring us closer. The folly moved forward. The deck plates vibrated harder. Ozone bit at his throat. The distortion swallowed them. The pocket opened. Elias forgot how to breathe. The pocket was a city, a hollow sphere larger than any human construction in history. Domes and spires lined the inner surface. They caught the light from a frozen star at the center. The star hung motionless, dead, preserved. This is impossible, Varric whispered. Elias did not answer. The star was a scaffold. The city was a seed. His mother had built the tap to find something. She had never told him what. Now he understood. Ilara pointed at the display. Movement behind the third spire. A ship emerged. It was aquatic. Curved hulls caught the star's cold light. Glowing pressure seals ran along its flanks. The ship was beautiful and alien. It was entirely unafraid. The hailing frequency lit up. A voice filled the observation deck. It clicked and chittered. The alien accent turned syllables into small collisions. You should not be here, primitives. Elias stepped toward the comms panel. He pressed the transmit key. This is Elias Finch of the Hawking Folly. We found this pocket by accident. We did not know it existed. The silence stretched. Then the voice returned, harder now. I am Quillen of the Pelagis Guild. This pocket belongs to my people. We claim salvage rights. You will leave immediately. Varric muttered something under her breath. Ilara's hand stopped moving. Elias looked at the star. Something pulsed beneath his feet. The tap throbbed. The star flickered. Varric's head snapped up. Elias. He saw the reading on the secondary display. The tap was syncing with the pocket core. A feedback loop was building. The tap will overload in minutes, maybe less. Elias ran. His boots slapped against the deck plates. The corridor blurred past him. He hit the engineering hatch with his shoulder. He stumbled into the tap chamber. The core was a column of blue-white light. It pulsed in rhythm with the star. The vibration was strong. His vision blurred at the edges. He saw the solution. A feedback inversion. He had designed it for a different problem. He published the theory during his third year of graduate work. His mother had called it elegant. Now it was the only thing to save them. Elias dropped to his knees. He pulled the access panel open. Wiring spilled out. He grabbed the primary conduit. He rerouted it through the secondary oscillation buffer. His fingers moved faster than his mind. 4 minutes. The core screamed. He twisted the final connection. He slammed the panel shut. The hum died. The silence was so sudden his ears rang. Elias slumped against the bulkhead. His hands were shaking. Varric appeared in the hatchway. Her face was pale. She did not say anything. She just stared at the stabilized core. The comms panel crackled. Quillen's voice returned, softer now. What did you do? Elias pushed himself to his feet. He walked back to the observation deck. His legs felt like they belonged to someone else. He pressed the transmit key. We stabilized the feedback loop. Your ship would have been caught in the collapse. The silence stretched longer this time. No one stabilizes a dark energy feedback loop in 4 minutes, not without killing everyone on board. Elias looked at his hands again. They were still shaking. I know. The Pelagis captain did not respond. The display showed his ship drifting closer. The glowing pressure seals pulsed in a new rhythm. Curiosity. Elias recognized it because he felt it too. His mother had built the tap to find this place. She had died before she could see it. But he was here. The pocket was not empty. The star flickered again. This time it held. A door opened at the center of the sphere. It was massive. Thousands of kilometers wide, crystal and light and something older than language. Something was on the other side. It was decrypting the lock. Quillen felt the water pumps pulse through the deck plating. The vibration traveled into his cartilage crest. The pocket core glowed through the observation viewport. It was a sphere of captured star stuff, frozen, eternal. He had never seen anything like it. He sent a tight beam message to the Federation Trade Authority. The encryption took 3 seconds to lock. The transmission would take hours to reach the relay buoys. He described the pocket in precise merchant terms: location, access vectors, estimated structural integrity. He omitted the humans entirely. They were a variable he had not yet priced. Quillen expected congratulations. He expected a bidding war for salvage rights. He expected to return to the Pelagis Guild with a contract. The contract would fund his lineage for 3 generations. Instead, he received a priority summons from the Thornwall. The summons arrived on a courier drone. The drone burned through the pocket door at emergency acceleration. Quillen read the message 3 times. The crest on his head flushed dark with irritation. The Thornwall had no jurisdiction here. They were plantoid wardens. They were not Federation signatories. They had no claim. Prefect Zarn arrived within hours after the summons. His fortress ship emerged from the pocket door like a root breaking through stone. The vessel was dark green. It was armored in layered bark. It blocked the light from the pocket star. The observation deck fell into shadow. Quillen watched the Thornwall vessel lock onto the pocket core. He clicked his beak in agitation. The sound echoed through the bridge like pebbles striking glass. "This is my discovery." The communication screen lit with Zarn's face. The warden's bark-like carapace was ridged with age. His long, thorned fingers dripped clear sap onto his console. "You have found a holy site. It belongs to an enemy my species exterminated long ago. It must be destroyed." Quillen stared at him. "You cannot destroy a void pocket. The collapse would sterilize this sector. The sector is already contaminated by your presence. The pocket will be purged." Trellis of the Mindreach arrived before the argument could escalate. The psionic entity manifested as a drifting corona of light near Quillen's viewport. Their voice came as overlapping chimes, warm but detached. "This pocket is not a tomb. I have sensed its structure. It is a seed vault." Quillen turned from the viewport. "Explain." "The resonance matches no known extinction event. The pocket contains genetic libraries, growth protocols, technology designed for a specific biological key." Zarn's sap dripped faster. "You speak of the exterminated. They left nothing." Trellis's chime softened. "They left everything. They built this vault before your species reached space. They seeded it with their knowledge. Then they waited." Quillen's mind worked faster than his mouth. A seed vault meant cargo. Genetic libraries meant patents. Growth protocols meant manufacturing rights. The potential value exceeded his initial estimates by orders of magnitude, but the Thornwall were already hostile. The Federation had not yet responded to his summons. And somewhere inside that pocket, a human ship was sinking with the core. The humans. Quillen looked at the pocket core. He tapped his beak against his palm. The humans had arrived at the exact moment the vault activated. They had matched its resonance. They had stabilized its feedback loop. No Pelagis engineer would have survived the attempt. Opportunity, crisis. He could auction access to the pocket. The humans were his bargaining chip. A new transmission arrived. It was a diplomatic request from the human vessel. Elias Finch requested a meeting on neutral ground. Quillen granted it immediately. He needed to assess the human's value before the Thornwall acted. The meeting took place in a pressurized chamber connected to both vessels. The room was empty except for a table and 4 chairs. Quillen entered first. The air smelled of recycled atmosphere and something sharp. A spore emission came from the Thornwall envoy who followed him. Zarn took his seat without greeting. His thorns rested on the table. The sap pooled beneath his fingers. Trellis manifested as a faint corona above their chair. They did not sit. They hovered, radiating warmth. Elias Finch entered last. He was shorter than Quillen expected. His features were unremarkable except for his eyes. Those eyes were exhausted and determined in equal measure. Quillen noted the data core embedded in Elias' forearm. The human tapped it as he sat down. "Prefect Zarn has demanded your immediate removal. I am inclined to negotiate." Zarn leaned forward. "There is nothing to negotiate. The humans leave. The pocket is destroyed." Elias looked at Zarn. "Why?" "Because your presence is an infestation." "That is not an answer." Zarn's thorns scraped the table. The species that built this vault was weak. They elevated enemies through genetic perversion. They were exterminated. Their legacy should follow. Trellis spoke before Elias could respond. Their chimes carried a tone Quillen had never heard from a Mindreach before. It was close to urgency. "Your claim is invalid. I have reviewed the Federation Charter. Article 17, subsection 4, custodial rights to any constructed void belong to lineal descendants." Zarn stood. His chair scraped backward. "There are no descendants of a dead species." Trellis shifted their light toward Elias. Their resonance changed. It became slower and more deliberate. "The pocket core responded to his ship's resonance. I scanned his genetic material during this meeting. The vault door opened for him specifically." Quillen understood before the words finished forming. He looked at Elias. He saw the genetic markers. The pocket had recognized them. Trellis described the pattern. He saw it now. It had been invisible before. The humans are not lucky salvagers. Someone built them to open this door. Silence filled the chamber. Elias stopped tapping his data core. His hand went still. We built ourselves. No, your species emerged within a specific gravitational corridor. Your DNA contains specific protein sequences. They match the vault's key receptors. You did not build yourselves. You were grown, planted, cultivated. Zarn's sap pooled across the table. This changes nothing. The pocket dies. It changes everything. Quillen's contract-based monopoly collapsed in front of him. The humans were not a salvage operation. They were a political nightmare. They were the heirs to an extinct civilization. He was trapped inside the pocket with them, the thorn wall, and a vault. A vault predating humanity's space age by 10,000 years. The pocket door opened behind Elias. Quillen saw the city through the gap. The structures were human in every detail. Arches, windows, doorways. But each dimension was scaled for a being twice the height of any baseline human. The city was a relic. It was built by a branch of humanity. They had left Earth before recorded history. It was vast. It was empty. It was waiting. Elias turned to look at it. His hand went to his data core. We do not know what this means. Quillen knew. The vault was not a tomb. It was a testament. The humans had been left a legacy they never knew existed. Every galactic power in this sector was about to fight over the inheritance. He clicked his beak once. The sound was sharp and final. Neither do I, but we are going to find out. He looked at Zarn. The warden's sap was spreading across the table. He looked at Trellis. The Mindreach's light was steady and patient. He looked at Elias. The human's hands were shaking. Something was about to happen. Quillen did not know what it was, but he could feel it shifting beneath his deck plates. Growing. Waiting for the right moment to surface. The vault door ground open. The sound was barely audible. Elias stepped through. The air hit him cold and still. It smelled of nothing. No ozone, no recycled ship breath, no trace of life at all. The hallway stretched ahead of him for miles. Curved walls rose into darkness. No lights, no flicker. The material swallowed every vibration. It prevented echoes. He looked down at his boots. The floor drank his footsteps. Varric moved past him with a scanner in her scarred hand. Gravity is 1/3 standard. Atmosphere is breathable but inert. This place has been sealed for a long time. How long? Elias asked. She did not answer. She was already walking. They followed the hallway for what felt like an hour. Trellis drifted beside Elias. The Mindreach was a corona of amber light and soft chime tones. They did not speak. They simply observed. Their patience felt older than the city itself. The hallway opened into a vast control room. Elias stopped at the threshold. The room curved upward into a dome. The dome was covered in star charts. The constellations did not match any pattern he knew. They were old. Older than human navigation. Older than written history. Control chairs lined the floor. They were massive. The seats were wide enough for two humans to sit side by side. The armrests ended in depressions. The depressions were shaped for hands with longer fingers and broader palms. Varric approached one of the chairs. She ran her scanner over the console. Her face changed. This is a data core intact. The encryption is human. Human how? Varric looked at him. It uses an algorithm my grandmother taught me, a cipher she learned from her mother. It is 100 generations old. She began to work. Trellis moved to the center of the dome. Their light pulsed once. A deep note resonated through the floor. I have matched the star charts. These are the skies of Earth. They appeared this way 10,000 years ago. Elias felt the words land like stones in his chest. The precursors left Earth after a catastrophe, a collapse of the planet's magnetic field. A solar storm had come. It stripped the atmosphere. They built vaults like this across the galaxy, seed banks, genetic libraries. They intended to return. They did not return. No, they evolved. Varric's scanner chirped. She pulled up a holographic display. A timeline appeared, 10,000 years of data compressed into a single spiral. They had FTL, they had dark energy taps, they had gene forges, they seeded Earth with life after they left. Every species evolved in the last 10,000 years. They came from these vaults. Elias stared at the display. They are our ancestors. They are your creators. They left you here as an inheritance. The pocket, the city, the technology, all of it was locked. A human ship had to find the key. Quillen's crest flushed dark. The Federation Charter gives custodial rights to lineal descendants. If these precursors are your genetic progenitors, the pocket belongs to humanity. Elias looked at his own hands. They were shaking again. He was not discovering a lost civilization. He was coming home to a house he did not know existed. The door had been waiting for him. The key had been in his mother's hands, in her mother's hands. The line went back generations. It ended with a woman. She had built a ship from desperation and hope. He looked at the control chair. It was too large for him. The seat would swallow him whole. They did not build this for me. His voice sounded small in the dead silence. Trellis pulsed once. Explain. Look at the chairs. They are built for someone bigger, someone with longer reach. The precursors expected a different species to return. They did not intend for baseline humanity to survive this long. Varric stopped working. She turned to face him. We are placeholders. They left a trap, not a gift. The alarms began to scream. Ward's voice came through Elias' earpiece. Captain, we have a problem. Zarn hit the Folly with a kinetic lance. The tap is destabilizing. Elias ran for the exit. Varric grabbed her scanner and followed. Quillen clicked his beak in rapid bursts. The Thornwall prefect attacked while we were inside. He knew the vault would distract us. Elias reached the hallway. The silence felt heavier now. It pressed against his ears. Varric stopped at a wall panel. She ripped it open with her bare hands. Cables spilled out. They were crystalline. They hummed with a low note. The note matched the Folly's dark energy tap. This is the city defense system. It is tuned to the same frequency as the ship. If I can tap into it, I can fire a pulse at the fortress. Fire it. Varric connected her scanner to the cables. Her hands moved fast. She did not check her work twice. She trusted her instincts. A targeting display appeared in front of her. The fortress ship hung in orbit above the pocket door. It was huge, bark-armored, armed with enough kinetic lances to crack a planet. Varric pressed a single command. The city hummed. A focused pulse of dark energy shot upward. It crossed the distance in less than a second. Zarn's fortress ship went dark. Every system failed at once. The bark armor cracked. The ship began to drift. Quillen stared at the readout on his wrist display. His beak hung open. These defenses are tuned to human DNA. You can fire them. We cannot. The city recognizes you as the inheritors. Elias did not feel powerful. He looked at his hands again. They were still shaking. The city had responded to him. It had recognized his DNA as a key. But the key was not made for the lock he thought. Varric turned to him. The Folly's tap is still destabilizing. Zarn's attack damaged the containment field. We have maybe 10 minutes before it collapses the pocket. Trellis pulsed a deep note. The precursors set the tap to fail if the city was breached. This is a failsafe, a dead man's switch. Elias looked at the control chair one last time. It was too large for him. The precursors had expected someone else. Then we have 10 minutes to figure out what they wanted us to do. Ward's voice cut through the earpiece again. Captain, I am reading a new signature, something big. It just emerged from the pocket door. What kind of signature? Silence. Captain Ward, what kind of signature? This kind won't fit my display. It is still coming through. It is enormous. Elias felt the cold climb up his spine. The precursor humans were not extinct. They had not died out. They had evolved into something else entirely. They were coming home. Quillen heard the coolant systems hiss through the deck plates. The sound was thin and desperate. It belonged on a dying ship. He did not plan to be on a dying ship. The holographic display showed the pocket star flickering. It pulsed like a wounded heart. Each cycle was weaker than the last. Quillen clicked his beak once. He ran the calculations. The numbers arrived in his navigation implant. They were bad. The explosion radius would erase the pocket entirely. It would consume a third of the star system beyond. The blast would fracture the local gravity well. Travel through this sector would be impossible for centuries. Quillen turned to the secondary display. It showed the human ship, the Hawking Folly. That ship was still tethered to the core. The humans had not fled. They were still inside. His survival instincts screamed at him to leave. The trench could still outrun the blast. He could file an insurance claim. He could write off the loss. He could find new trade routes far from this disaster. His merchant instincts calculated the abandoned human technology. The dark energy tap alone was worth a small fortune. The crystalline readings from the vault suggested new materials. No one in the Federation had ever cataloged them. The profit margin was enormous. Neither instinct mattered if he was dead. Captain Solène Ward appeared on the holographic display. She stood on the Folly's bridge. Her face was calm. Her calm was more disturbing than any panic. Our tap is destabilizing. Varric gives us 6 hours before we lose containment. Quillen clicked his beak. You have 4. The pocket core will rupture before your tap fails. Your 6 hours are an illusion. Ward did not flinch. She turned and spoke to someone off camera. Then the hologram shifted. Elias Finch appeared. His face was pale. His hands were still. I have a plan. Quillen laughed. It was a sharp, scraping sound. Every plan you humans make seems to end with imminent explosive death. Forgive my skepticism. Zarn's voice cut through the channel. The Thornwall prefect was still on the trench's brig deck. His bark carapace had been damaged in the kinetic lance exchange. Sap dripped from his fingers onto the metal floor. Any species that aids the humans will be sanctioned. The Federation will fracture. The Thornwall will remember every alliance. Choose carefully. The channel went silent. Quillen checked his navigation feeds. 3 Federation ships had already changed course away from the pocket. A 4th had jumped to FTL without transmitting a departure notice. The evacuation had begun. Only one signal remained stationary. It was Trellis of the Mindreach. The drifting corona of light pulsed gently near the trench's observation window. Their chime tones resonated through the comm system. We will stay. We can offer psionic coordination for the evacuation. Our range covers the entire pocket. It will not be pleasant, but it will be efficient. Quillen stared at the light. The Mindreach were pacifists. They never took sides. They never interfered. They were breaking their own doctrine to stay. Why? Trellis did not answer. Elias spoke again. His voice was steady now. We use the folly as a needle. We thread a miniature black hole into the core of the explosion. The singularity swallows the blast. The pocket collapses into stable mass instead of expanding into destruction. Quillen's crest flushed dark. He tapped his beak against the console. The sound clicked hard. That is insane. You cannot generate a black hole from a dark energy tap. The power requirements alone. Varric already calculated the tolerances. She says it is possible. Possible is not guaranteed. No, it is not. Quillen leaned forward. His webbed fingers pressed against the console's surface. What is the price of failure? Elias looked directly at the holocamera. His eyes were tired. His voice was flat. We all die. The words hung in the air. Quillen waited for elaboration. There was none. The human had stated the outcome as fact. No drama, no pleading, just the truth. Quillen looked at his own reflection in the dark glass of the observation window. He saw Pelagis merchant navigator. That navigator had survived 30 years of trade routes. He had outrun pirates. He had negotiated with Thornwall wardens. He had never bet his life on a new species. They had only just left their home system. He turned back to the hologram. I agree, but only for a binding contract. Outer ring mining rights for the Pelagis Guild in perpetuity, exclusive access to all crystalline resources in the pocket, standard arbitration clauses apply. Elias did not hesitate. Signed. You do not need to check the terms. There is no time. Quillen watched the human's hand move across a document pad. The digital signature appeared. It was valid. The contract was binding under Pelagis law and Federation code. He had just agreed to help a doomed species save a pocket they had no right to. He had done it for mining rights he might never collect. The plan began immediately. Everything broke immediately. The Folly's dark energy tap went into cascade failure within the first hour. Varric's voice came through the comms. It was clipped and angry. She reported subsystem losses faster than she could name them. The stabilization field collapsed on the port side. A containment breach followed. Elias suited up and left the ship. Quillen watched the holographic feed from the trench's bridge. The human drifted in the void. His suit was thin, a soft, fragile shell between his body and the vacuum. The pocket star pulsed behind him. It cast his shadow across the vault walls. Elias was calibrating the tap manually. He was floating in empty space. He had a hand tool. A dying star was behind him. Quillen clicked his beak. He will die. Trellis's chime tones drifted through the comm. He knows. Then why is he doing it? Because the alternative is unacceptable. Quillen did not understand that answer. He watched the human work. The calibrations took 17 minutes. The pressure readouts shifted. The tap frequencies aligned. The explosion began to collapse inward instead of outward. The singularity formed. It was small at first. A point of impossible density at the heart of the pocket. The dying star flickered one last time. Then it was gone. The singularity drank the blast. The explosion folded into itself. It became stable. Quillen stared at the readouts. The mass calculations were correct. The pocket was collapsing into a controlled state. The danger had passed. Elias floated back toward the Folly's airlock. His movements were slow. His suit had a crack along the left arm. Blood was freezing in the vacuum. A thin trail of red ice followed him. The airlock door opened. Crewmates reached out. They grabbed his suit. They pulled him inside. They did not check his survival odds. They did not calculate his value. They just acted. Quillen watched the feeds. The humans surrounded Elias. They carried him toward the medical bay. Their hands were on him. Their voices were urgent. They were afraid for him, not afraid of losing the tap calibration, not afraid of losing the mining rights, afraid for him. Quillen sat back in his command chair. The trench was silent. The coolant systems had stabilized. The pocket core was dormant. The crisis was over. He thought about the Pelagis Guild. He thought about every deal he had ever made, every contract, every negotiation, every life measured in profit margins. Humans did not measure each other. They just acted. This was not logic. It was something else entirely. Quillen did not have a word for it. The Pelagis language had no term for a choice made without calculation. He looked at the observation window. The pocket star was gone. The singularity hung in its place, dark and quiet. The Folly was crippled. Its tap was dead. Its hull was cracked. The Folly would need rescue. The Folly would need towing. The Folly was full of humans who had chosen to stay. Quillen opened his mouth to order a tow line configuration. Then the proximity alarms screamed. The holographic display flickered and updated. A new contact appeared on the long-range sensors, then another, then another. 10,000 signals, 10,000 ships. They were dropping out of FTL in perfect formation. Each vessel was the size of a small moon. Their hulls were crystalline. They hummed with dark energy. They moved with a precision no organic pilot could match. The silent fleet had come home. Quillen's beak clicked once. The contract did not cover this. The viewport filled with ships. Elias stood on the battered bridge of the Hawking Folly. He watched them emerge. They came through the pocket door one after another. Crystalline hulls caught the frozen starlight. They bent the light into colors he had no name for. Each ship was the size of a small moon. They kept coming. 10, 100, 1,000. The silent alarm lights on the bridge showed no active threats. The ship was dead in space. Captain Ward stood at the security station, her hands wrapped around a rail. The rail no longer had power running through it. Quillen pressed his beak against an auxiliary screen. His cartilaginous crest flushed a deep bruised purple. "You told me this was a seed vault. You did not tell me it had a fleet attached." Elias did not answer. He tapped his forearm data core. He cycled through sensor feeds. The pocket was saturated with hull signatures. The crystalline ships hummed at a frequency. The frequency vibrated in his teeth. A voice spoke on every channel at once. "Baseline humans of the vessel designated Hawking Folly. You are addressed by Archon Teyer of the Etheling Continuity. We left Earth 10,000 years ago. We have returned." The voice was calm, precise, human. Elias felt something cold settle in his chest. He had spent months preparing to meet aliens. He had never prepared to meet his own species' future. "I request a meeting, face to face." The voice did not hesitate. "Granted." The hologram resolved in the center of the bridge. She stood nearly 8 feet tall. Her skin was pale beneath dark energy patterns. The patterns moved like living circuitry. They shifted across her arms and neck in slow pulses. Her eyes were human. Her expression was not. Trellis drifted closer to Elias. Their chime tones carried a frequency he had learned to read as concern. "Her mind is enclosed. I cannot touch it. I have never encountered a consciousness this smooth." Elias nodded. He stepped toward the hologram. "You said you left Earth 10,000 years ago. Where did you go?" Tayer's image turned to face him. She moved with absolute precision. Every joint found its stop without wasted motion. "We went where we were needed. The galaxy is cyclical. Life rises, consumes its environment, and collapses. We observed this pattern across every seeded world in this arm. The Ethelings are the immune system. We prevent the collapse from becoming permanent." Varick's voice came through Elias' earpiece. "Cap, I'm reading their power signature. That fleet could crack a planet, easily." Elias kept his eyes on Teyer. "You seeded Earth after the last collapse." Teyer inclined her head. "We seeded many worlds. Earth was one. Baseline humanity was a test, a backup protocol in the event the Etheling line failed to maintain stability. You were not intended to advance this far before we returned." "Intended?" Elias let the word hang. "You were a fallback, not a destination." Quillen clicked his beak twice. The sound was sharp in the silence. "I am Quillen of the Pelagis Guild. I represent legitimate salvage and survey interests under Federation Trade Code. I demand arbitration." Teyer did not look at him. "Your Federation has no standing here. This pocket predates your species' first breath. Your codes are irrelevant." Quillen's crest flushed darker. He said nothing. Prefect Zarn stood near the rear of the bridge. His bark-like carapace was cracked from the kinetic lance damage. He raised one long-thorned hand. "I am Prefect Zarn of the Thornwall Wardens. I recognize your authority. This pocket was seeded by enemy life. We will aid your sterilization." Teyer turned her gaze to him. She looked at him the way a person looks at furniture. "You will not. Your kind purges indiscriminately. We do not. We will sterilize this sector ourselves. You will withdraw or you will be removed." Zarn's sap dripped onto the deck plates. He said nothing. Elias felt the weight of the room shift. Teyer had not raised her voice. She had not threatened. She had simply stated facts with the same tone a person used to describe the weather. "Tell me what happens now." Tayer's hologram turned fully to face him. The dark energy patterns on her skin pulsed once. Then they settled. "The pocket is destabilized. Your dark energy tap has accelerated the decay of the local spacetime matrix. You will evacuate this sector of all biological life. Then we will sterilize it. The collapse will be contained. The cycle will continue." "How long?" 24 standard hours. You will use that time to evacuate every baseline human from this system. Your Federation allies may also withdraw. After that threshold, we will initiate sterilization protocols. No biological material will survive." Elias looked at the crystalline ships filling his viewport. They were beautiful. They were terrible. They were human. He looked at Tayer's face. She was strong. She was certain. She had no doubt. Elias had doubt every second of every day. He doubted his decisions. He doubted his competence. He doubted whether his mother would have done better. But he had something Teyer did not. He still believed the galaxy was worth saving. "The Thornwall attacked my ship. The Pelagis tried to claim this pocket as salvage. The Mindreach broke their pacifist doctrine to help us. Every species in this sector has shown they can choose differently. You are asking me to let you erase them." Tayer's expression did not change. "The galaxy is cyclical. Life rises, consumes, collapses. This is not cruelty. It is maintenance. Those are not the same thing." Elias stepped closer to the hologram. He could see the circuitry patterns in her skin more clearly now. They were not tattoos, they were embedded. She had been rebuilt at the genetic level. What happened to you? What made you think this was acceptable? Taylor was silent for a long moment. The crystalline ships continued to fill the viewport. We watched a world die, 1,000 worlds. We watched the collapse propagate across systems. We watched children suffocate. We watched parents hold their young against the vacuum. We watched because we had no immune system. We decided we would never watch again without the power to act. And now you act by killing. We act by preventing the death of the whole. The individual is acceptable loss. The species is not. Elias looked down at his hands. They were shaking. They had been shaking since he stabilized the dark energy tap. They might never stop. I cannot accept that. Taylor's hologram flickered once. You will have 24 hours to evacuate. You will accept it or you will die with the rest. The hologram dissolved. The crystalline fleet hung in the pocket like a wall of light. Elias stood on the bridge of the Hawking Folly. He smelled burnt metal from the damaged systems. He heard Quillen clicking his beak in rapid calculation. He heard Zarn's sap dripping onto the deck. He heard nothing from Taylor. She had already moved on. Captain Ward stepped beside him. Her voice was low. We have 24 hours to convince a transhuman fleet to spare a sector of the galaxy. Elias did not look away from the viewport. We have 24 hours to prove they are wrong about us. The gilded trench smelled of salt and desperation. Quillen clicked his beak once, twice, 3 times. The rhythm did not calm him. Nothing would calm him. He faced the holographic assembly. Elias Finch stood with his data core arm crossed over his chest. Captain Ward hovered at his shoulder. Her arms were loose and ready. Dr. Varick leaned against a console. Her scarred knuckles were white against the metal. Trellis drifted as a warm amber light near the ceiling. Prefect Zarn loomed at the edge of the projection. His bark carapace still wept sap from his damaged fortress. Quillen spoke first. Surrender. The word hung in the air like spoiled meat. You have no fleet. Your weapons do not matter. The Ethelings have 10,000 crystalline ships. You have a research vessel, a damaged merchant freighter, a Thornwall fortress with compromised power systems. The logical path is negotiation. Elias shook his head. They already gave terms, evacuate or die. Then negotiate better terms. There are no better terms. Elias stepped forward. His voice was flat, controlled. You want to know what I learned from the Vault, Quillen? The precursors built humanity as a backup plan, a fallback protocol. We were never supposed to succeed. We were never supposed to matter. Quillen tilted his crest. This is not a useful observation. No, here is the useful observation. Elias looked at each of them. The Ethelings left Earth 10,000 years ago. They built an empire, they became gods, and they are still afraid of us. Zarn made a sound like grinding wood. Fear, they have annihilation. They have numbers. Elias tapped his data core. They do not have what we have. Which is? Elias smiled. It was not a warm expression. We have nothing to lose. The room went silent. Quillen heard his own breathing. It was wet and shallow in his gill slits. He heard the distant hum of the dark energy tap vibrating through the deck. Trellis descended from the ceiling. Their light pulsed in a slow, patient rhythm. Explain. Elias turned to face the drifting corona. The pocket collapses in less than a day. The Ethelings want it sterilized. They want us dead. If we run, we die tired. If we fight, we die standing. But if we take the fight to them, if we board that command ship and take control of the Gene Forge, we change the terms. Quillen's beak clicked. You want to board a transhuman dreadnought with a research vessel. With a Trojan horse. Elias pointed to the holographic projection of the fleet. The Folly is small, unarmed. It looks like a desperate escape attempt. They will not destroy it immediately. They will want to capture it, to study it, to understand how we found the pocket. Varick spoke without looking up. The dark energy tap destabilizes local spacetime. If we overload it on purpose, we create a window, maybe 30 seconds, maybe less. That is the plan. Quillen's crest flushed dark. A 30-second window to board their ship. It is crewed by post-human warriors. No, Elias locked eyes with him. That is the distraction. The real plan is what happens inside. Quillen felt something cold settle in his chest. He had survived 5 decades in the black. He had outrun pirates and navigated nebula storms. He had bartered with certain species. They ate their own young. He had never met a creature like this. You will die, Elias shrugged. Probably. Probably is not a survival calculation. It is not supposed to be. Elias turned to Zarn. Prefect, do you want your species to end here? Zarn's thorned fingers curled. Clear sap dripped onto the deck. The Thornwall have endured for 14,000 cycles. We have burned worlds. We have sterilized systems. We have never, he stopped. His voice cracked like dry wood. We have never allied with infestation. Elias waited. Zarn's carapace shuddered. The Ethelings are a corruption. A deviation from the natural order. If they inherit the galaxy, there is no purification. There is only infection. That is not an answer. It is the only answer I have. Zarn straightened, every joint in his body clicked. I will bring my fortress weapon platforms, I will provide covering fire if he paused. If this is the end, it will be a worthy end. Quillen stared. The Thornwall hated all non-planted life. They had tried to exterminate the Mindreach twice. They had sanctioned the Pelagis Guild for trading with uncontacted species. And now Zarn was offering his ships to a baseline human. Trellis pulsed brighter. I will override Mindreach pacifist doctrine. It will take time. The species' consciousness will resist, but I will do it. Elias nodded once. Thank you. Do not thank me yet. Trellis's voice carried a rare edge. I am violating 10,000 years of tradition. If we fail, I will be exiled from the collective. If we fail, there is no collective. Trellis dimmed. Yes, that is also true. Quillen watched them, the pacifist, the xenophobe, the desperate captain, 3 species with nothing in common, 3 species ready to die for a human's insane plan. He should walk away. He had a ship. He had systems that still functioned. He could outrun the collapse. He could report the loss and file for salvage later. He pulled out his contract parchment. The sheets were vellum. They were pressed from the skin of deep ocean creatures his ancestors had hunted. He laid them on the console. What are you doing? Elias asked. Writing a contract. Quillen's claw scratched across the surface. The ink was his own blood. It was drawn from a vessel in his wrist. The Pelagis Guild retains exclusive mining rights to any ethyling salvage, 20% of all recovered technology, access to the gene forge for 1 standard cycle. Elias laughed. It was a raw, exhausted sound. You are negotiating salvage rights before we have even boarded. Business is business. If we die, the debt is void. Quillen signed his name. The blood seal glowed faintly. If we die, the debt is void. Elias clapped him on the shoulder. The contact was warm, solid. Quillen felt something shift in his chest, something he could not name. Humans touched each other constantly. He had observed this. They pressed flesh against flesh as reassurance, as greeting, as comfort. It seemed inefficient, unsanitary. Standing here with Elias Finch's hand on his shoulder and death waiting outside the door, Quillen understood. This was not strategy. This was not biological imperative. It was will, pure and stubborn and irrational will. Elias walked to the center of the room. Varric projected a holographic schematic of the ethyling command ship. It was shaped like a spear, 40 kilometers from stem to stern, bristling with dark energy conduits. Here. Elias pointed to a recess near the aft section. The folly enters from this angle. You overload the tap at close range. The destabilization field buys us a breach window. We go in hard and fast. Varric spoke without looking up. Probability of survival to breach 14%. Refine that. I cannot refine 14%. Try. Varric was quiet for a long moment, then she tapped the console. 16%. I routed emergency power to the forward shields. Elias nodded. Good. Captain Ward, you lead the boarding team. Ward cracked her neck. How many are we taking? Everyone who can hold a weapon. That is not a number, that is a slaughter. It is the only number we have. Quillen watched the humans debate their own deaths. They did it calmly, without panic, without the trembling that preceded most species' final moments. He rolled up his contract. The blood seal was still wet. Elias Finch. Elias turned. Quillen clicked his beak once. I am not doing this for profit. I know. I am doing this because you asked. Elias smiled again. This time it was warm. I know that too. Quillen looked at the holographic fleet, 10,000 crystalline ships, each one a moon-sized tomb, and in their shadow, 3 battered vessels forming a single impossible weapon. The Gilded Trench, the Hawking Folly, the Thornwall Fortress. They had nothing in common. They had spent centuries hating each other, and now they were moving as one. Quillen did not understand it. He did not think he ever would. But as the hybrid fleet lurched forward into the dark, he felt something he had never felt before. He believed in tomorrow. The Hawking Folly's tap screamed, then it died. Elias felt the vibration through his boots. The deck plates rattled against his soles. He braced one hand against the bulkhead. He watched the control panel spike past every safety threshold. Varric had her hands on the manual override. She did not look at him. 30 seconds. Captain Ward stood at the airlock with her rifle raised. Her breathing was slow and deliberate. She had already accepted the next few moments as a percentage she could not calculate. Elias touched the data core in his forearm. The metal was warm against his skin. 20 seconds, Varric's voice. The tap's hum shifted into a howl. The lights flickered. A crack ran across the observation window. It spiderwebbed outward. 15. Elias thought of his mother. He thought of the day she showed him the star charts. She said someone built this for us. He had been 12 years old. He had believed her completely. 10. Ward reached over and grabbed his shoulder. Her grip was iron. 5. The howl stopped. For one full second, there was absolute silence. Then the fracture opened. It was not a sound. It was a feeling. The entire ship lurched sideways. It moved into a place beyond space. Elias felt his stomach drop through his chest. The air turned cold and thin. Ward pulled him through the airlock. The tunnel was made of light and pressure. Elias could not breathe. His lungs refused to expand. He saw Ward's face contorted. He realized she was screaming. He could not hear her. Then the pressure released. They hit the deck of the last Dawn of Saul. The impact cracked bone. Elias felt his ribs complain. He forced himself upright. He looked around. The room was vast and silent. The walls were polished bone and crystal. They caught the light and scattered it into patterns. The patterns made his eyes ache. The air was cold and still. The air smelled alien. He had never encountered a scent like it. Clean, sterile, empty of life. Ward was already on her feet. Her rifle was raised and tracking. "We are not alone." Mercantile stepped out of the light. She was taller than Elias remembered, nearly 8 feet of pale skin and dark energy patterns. The patterns moved like living ink across her arms and throat. Her eyes were the same blue-white as the frozen star in the pocket. She looked at them like insects. They were insects. They had found their way inside her house. "You came to fight with your hands?" Her voice was calm, almost warm. This was more unnerving than any threat. Elias forced himself to breathe. "I came to talk." Taylor tilted her head. The dark energy patterns flickered across her collarbone. "Talk. You detonated your ship's core to create a fracture. You boarded my vessel. You are bleeding on my deck, and you want to talk." "Yes," she almost smiled. It did not reach her eyes. "We left Earth 10,000 years ago. We built your species as a fallback protocol, a seed to replant if the galaxy required it. You are a secondary tool, not a successor, not an heir, a contingency." Elias felt the weight of her words. They were designed to crush him. He let them land, then he spoke. "You built us to be better than you?" Taylor's expression did not change. "You gave us the one thing you could not keep, hope." The silence stretched. Ward's breathing was the only sound. "Hope is a failure mode. It convinces you to survive when survival is pointless. It convinces us to survive when survival is impossible. There is a difference." Taylor considered him. The dark energy pattern slowed across her skin. She was thinking. He could see it in the micro-movements of her eyes. "The galaxy is cyclical. Civilizations rise. They collapse. That is the fundamental law. We enforce it. That is not a law. It is a prison. We are the key. You are a disease, an error in the code." Taylor made a gesture, a flicker of her long fingers. 2 Aetheling guards stepped from the walls. They were silent. They moved with the same impossible precision as their Archon. Their bodies were encased in crystalline armor. "The error will be corrected." Ward opened fire. Her rifle barked once. The shot hammered against the first guard's chest. The armor absorbed the impact without a scratch. The guard did not even flinch. It raised a weapon. The weapon hummed. Elias grabbed Ward's arm. "Fall back. The gene forge, that is the target. We are not leaving you. You are following orders." He pushed her toward a side corridor. The rest of the boarding team laid down, suppressing fire. Their weapons were useless, but the noise and light bought him seconds. Elias ran. He sprinted across the polished floor toward Taylor. She watched him come. She did not move. She did not perceive him as a threat. The second guard moved to intercept him. Elias did not slow down. He slid. His boots skidded across the smooth deck. He slammed into the guard's legs. The Aetheling was a statue. It did not budge, but the impact was enough. Elias slapped his palm against the guard's armored thigh. He pressed his data core against the crystalline surface. A new circuit opened. His mother's work. The feedback inversion algorithm, the code from the vault. It flooded the Aetheling systems. The guard froze. The dark energy patterns in its armor flickered. Then they went out. Elias scrambled to his feet. He ran past Taylor. She finally turned. Her expression was no longer calm. It was something else, surprise. "How?" He did not answer. He was already at the far end of the chamber. A door irised open at his approach. The ship recognized his DNA. It recognized the key. He stepped through into a new room. This was the heart of the ship. This was the gene forge. It was not a machine. It was a column of light, a spiral of data made solid. Information flowed through it in rivers of color. He saw the double helix of baseline humanity. He saw the complex crystalline code of the Aethelings. He saw a third signature, dormant, waiting. The one the vault chairs were built for. Taylor's voice echoed in the chamber. "You cannot comprehend what you are seeing. Stop now. Your mind will break." Elias reached out his hand. He pressed his data core against the column of light. He did not need to break her code. He just needed to add his own. "You wanted a cure for chaos," he whispered. "You should have chosen a better disease." The light of the gene forge surged. It engulfed him. The data streams flooded his mind. He saw 10,000 years of history. He saw the birth of his species. He saw its engineered death. The gene forge was not a weapon. It was a cradle, and something inside it was waking up.